The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days. It drummed against the thin window pane of the tiny apartment like it was trying to get in, and maybe it already had. Water pooled near the baseboard in the corner of the living room, and the smell of damp wood and old carpet hung in the air, no matter how many times the girl opened the window to let in fresh air that never really came. 12-year-old Maya sat cross-legged on the floor, her back against the couch, carefully folding laundry by the dim light of a single lamp. Her fingers moved quickly, smoothing out wrinkles from shirts that had been washed too many times, their colors faded, hems fraying. She folded each piece with care, as if neatness could somehow fix everything else that was falling apart. In the next room, her mom coughed, a deep, wet sound that made Maya's stomach tighten. She paused, listening. The cough came again, followed by a soft groan. Maya set down the shirt she was holding and stood up, her bare feet silent on the worn carpet. She peeked into the bedroom. Her mom lay in bed, propped up on 2 thin pillows, her face pale under the yellowish glow of the bedside lamp. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her breathing was shallow. She tried to smile when she saw Maya, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Hey, baby," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "You should be sleeping." "I'm not tired," Maya said, stepping inside. "Are you feeling any better?" "A little," her mom lied. Maya knew it wasn't true. She'd been saying that for weeks. Maya walked over and sat on the edge of the bed. She reached out and brushed a strand of hair from her mom's forehead. It was cool to the touch, but not in a good way. "Did you take your medicine?" "Yeah," her mom said, though the pill bottle on the nightstand was still full. Maya didn't say anything. She'd learned not to push too hard. Her mom didn't like being fussed over, especially not by her. "You don't have to stay up with me," her mom said softly. "Go get some rest. Big day tomorrow." Maya nodded, but she didn't move. Instead, she leaned forward and rested her head gently on her mom's shoulder. Her mom's hand came up slowly, weakly, and patted her hair. "You're too good to me," her mom murmured. "No, I'm not," Maya whispered. "You're the one who's always been good." Her mom didn't answer. After a few quiet minutes, her breathing evened out, and Maya knew she'd fallen asleep. She stayed there a little longer, listening to the rain and the soft rhythm of her mom's breath, before carefully getting up and tiptoeing back to the living room. She picked up the laundry again, but her mind wasn't on folding. It was on the stack of envelopes on the kitchen counter, bills with red stamps, final notices, overdue warnings. She'd seen the numbers. She didn't understand all of it, but she knew they were in trouble. The landlord had knocked on their door last week, his voice sharp, saying if they didn't pay the rent by Friday, they'd have to leave. Maya didn't know where they'd go. They didn't have family nearby. Her mom had never talked much about her past, and Maya had stopped asking years ago. All she knew was that it was just the two of them, and that her mom had worked hard, really hard, before the accident. It had happened at the hospital where her mom used to work as a nurse. A patient had fallen, and her mom had tried to catch him. She'd twisted her back badly, torn something in her spine. The doctor said she might never walk without pain again. She'd been let go soon after. Not fired exactly, but let go because she couldn't do the job anymore. Insurance covered some of the treatments, but not enough. And now, with no income, they were sinking fast. Maya had started cleaning offices after school to help. She'd lied about her age, said she was 14, and the building manager, Mr. Ruiz, had taken pity on her. He gave her a mop, a bucket, and a key to the empty offices on the 3rd floor of the old downtown building. She worked from 4 until 6, scrubbing floors, emptying trash, wiping down desks. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid $20 a night in cash, and every dollar went into the coffee can on top of the fridge, their emergency fund, which wasn't so emergency anymore. It was just life. She finished folding the laundry and stacked it neatly on the couch. Then she walked to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of water. The fridge hummed loudly, the only sound besides the rain. She opened the fridge door. Inside there were half a loaf of bread, a jar of peanut butter, a few slices of cheese wrapped in foil, and a carton of milk that was probably past its date. She closed the door without taking anything. Back in the living room, she sat on the floor again and pulled a small notebook from under the couch cushion. It was filled with song lyrics she'd written, some copied from the radio, others made up in her head when she couldn't sleep. She flipped to a blank page and started writing. "Mama's hands are tired now, but they used to hold me tight. They used to braid my hair each morning and tuck me in at night. She stopped, her pencil hovering. Outside, a car splashed through a puddle, its headlights flashing across the ceiling for a second. She kept writing, her letters small and careful. She'd always loved to sing. When she was little, her mom would sing to her, soft lullabies in Spanish that Maya didn't fully understand but felt deep in her chest. After the accident, her mom stopped singing. But Maya hadn't. She'd sing while doing dishes, while walking to school, while mopping floors. Sometimes when the apartment was quiet and her mom was asleep, she'd stand in front of the bathroom mirror and practice, imagining she was on a real stage, lights shining down, people clapping. She never told anyone. Not her friends at school, not even Mr. Ruiz. Singing felt too private, too fragile, like if she said it out loud, it might disappear. But today, something had changed. At lunch, her best friend Lila had shoved a flyer into her hand. "You gotta enter this," she'd said, eyes wide. "The prize is $20,000. Maya had almost laughed. Me, sing in front of people? No way. But Lila wouldn't let it go. "You have the best voice I've ever heard. Remember that time you sang in the choir room when you thought no one was there? I was outside the door, Maya. I heard you. You sounded like someone on the radio." Maya had blushed and stuffed the flyer in her pocket. But that night after her shift, she'd pulled it out again under the streetlight on her walk home. Bright futures. Talent shown and open to ages 10 to 18. Grand prize. 20,000 auditions this Saturday at the community center. $20,000. She'd done the math in her head. Rent was $950 a month. Medical bills. She didn't know the exact number, but she'd seen the stack. 20,000 could cover rent for over a year. It could pay for her mom's medicine, maybe even that special physical therapy the doctor had mentioned but said was too expensive. It could keep the lights on. It could keep them in this apartment, in this city, together. She'd stood there under the flickering streetlight, heart pounding, the flyer trembling in her hand. Now, sitting on the floor of her dark apartment, she looked at the notebook again. She read the lines she'd written. Then she closed it gently and tucked it back under the cushion. She stood up and walked to the window. The rain had slowed to a drizzle. In the distance, the city lights shimmered through the wet glass. Tall buildings, blinking signs, a world that felt both close and impossibly far away. She took a deep breath. "I can do this," she whispered to herself. For Mom. The next morning she woke before her alarm. Her mom was still asleep, so she moved quietly, making toast and packing her school bag. Before she left, she wrote a note. "Gone to school. Love you." She left it on the kitchen table next to the coffee can. At school, she was quiet as usual. She kept her head down, did her work, and avoided the lunchroom drama. But during free period, she pulled out the flyer again. She stared at the words, "Auditions this Saturday," until they blurred. After school, instead of going straight to Mr. Ruiz's building, she stopped by the library. She used one of the public computers to look up the talent show rules. No entry fee. Just show up, perform for 2 minutes, and wait. Simple. She typed her name into the online registration form. Her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Then she clicked submit. That night, after cleaning the offices, she came home to find her mom sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of tea in her hands. She looked a little better, color in her cheeks, eyes clearer. "You're late," her mom said, but there was no anger in her voice. "Sorry," Maya said, dropping her backpack by the door. "Mr. Ruiz needed help with the supply closet." Her mom nodded. "Come sit." Maya sat across from her. Her mom reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was warm now and her grip was stronger than it had been in weeks. "I got a call today," her mom said softly. "From the clinic, they said, they can't schedule my next appointment unless we pay the balance." Maya's stomach dropped. She knew this was coming, but hearing it out loud made it real in a new way. "How much?" she asked, even though she was afraid to know. $800, her mom said, looking down. "And that's just for the visit. The medicine, that's extra." Maya didn't say anything. She just squeezed her mom's hand. Her mom looked up, her eyes searching Maya's face. "I'm so sorry, baby. I never wanted you to carry this." "You're not alone," Maya said quickly. "We're in this together." Her mom smiled, but it was sad. "You're too young to be carrying the world." "I'm not carrying the world," Maya said. "I'm just carrying you." Her mom's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. "You're my brave girl." Later that night, after her mom was asleep, Maya stood in front of a bathroom mirror again. She took a deep breath and began to sing, softly at first, then louder. She sang the song she'd written, her voice clear and steady, filling the small room. She didn't know if she was good enough. She didn't know if anyone would even listen. But she knew she had to try, because if she didn't, she might lose the only person who mattered, and that was a risk she couldn't take. Saturday morning dawned gray but dry, a small mercy after days of rain. Maya stood in front of her closet for nearly 20 minutes, holding up one outfit after another, then putting it back. Most of her clothes were worn thin from too many washes or had small stains she couldn't get out. She finally settled on a navy blue dress her mom had bought at a thrift store last year for a school event. It was a little big in the shoulders, but she'd pinned it with safety pins hidden inside, and the fabric was soft, not shiny or flashy, just simple and clean. She brushed her hair until it shone, tied it back with a plain black ribbon, and put on the only pair of shoes that didn't have a hole in the sole, a pair of black flats she'd saved for special occasions. She didn't own makeup and she didn't want any. She just wanted to be herself, whatever that was enough for. Her mom sat at the kitchen table wrapped in a blanket despite the mild weather, sipping tea. She looked nervous, more nervous than Maya felt, which surprised her. "You sure about this?" her mom asked, her voice gentle. Maya nodded. "I have to try." Her mom reached out and took her hand. "No matter what happens today, I'm proud of you." Maya swallowed hard. "What if I mess up?" "Then you'll have tried," her mom said. "And that's more than most people ever do." The community center was only a few bus rides away, but Maya had saved enough from her cleaning job to afford a taxi. She didn't want to risk being late or showing up sweaty and flustered. As the cab pulled up, she saw a line of kids and teens stretching around the building, some with parents, some with instruments, others chatting nervously in small groups. A few had fancy outfits, professional headshots clipped to their folders, even stylists fussing with their hair. Maya suddenly felt very small. She paid the driver, stepped onto the sidewalk, and clutched the strap of her backpack like it was a lifeline. Inside was her notebook, a bottle of water, and the printed confirmation email for her audition. She took a deep breath and joined the line. People barely glanced at her. No one said hello. She kept her eyes down, listening to snippets of conversation, someone talking about their vocal coach, another bragging about how many competitions they'd won. Maya's stomach twisted. What was she doing here? She'd never even sung in front of her class. But then she thought of her mom's tired eyes, the stack of bills on the counter, the way her voice used to sound before the pain took over. She straightened her shoulders and stepped forward when it was her turn. Inside, the waiting area buzzed with energy. A boy practiced piano scales on a keyboard in the corner. A girl in a sparkly leotard stretched near the wall. Volunteers handed out numbers. Maya got number 47. "Performers have 2 minutes," a woman with a clipboard said. "No backing tracks unless pre-approved. Just voice or live instrument. Judges are in the main hall. When your number is called, go through those double doors." Maya nodded, her throat dry. She found an empty chair in the back and sat down, her hands folded tightly in her lap. She tried to calm her breathing, but her heart pounded like a drum. Time passed slowly. One by one, kids went in and came out, some smiling, some near tears. A boy with a guitar got a standing ovation from the volunteers. A dancer stumbled on her final spin and walked out with her head down. Maya watched them all, trying to learn, trying to prepare. When number 46 was called, Maya stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but she walked steadily toward the doors. A volunteer opened one for her and gave her a small, encouraging smile. The stage was smaller than she expected, just a wooden platform with a single microphone on a stand. Bright lights shone down, making it hard to see the audience. But she could feel them. 3 judges at a table near the front, a few staff members in chairs along the wall. She stepped up to the mic. Her palms were sweaty. She wiped them on her dress. "Hi," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. She cleared her throat. "My name is Maya. I'm going to sing a song. It's called Over the Rainbow." She didn't know why she chose that song. Maybe because it was the first song her mom ever sang to her. Maybe because it was about hoping for something better. Somewhere over the rainbow where troubles melt like lemon drops. She closed her eyes for a second. Then she began. Her voice came out soft at first, trembling slightly. But as she sang the first lines, "Somewhere over the rainbow way up high, Something shifted. The fear didn't vanish, but it moved to the side, like a curtain being pulled back. Her voice grew stronger, clearer, filling the room with a warmth that surprised even her. She wasn't thinking about the judges anymore. She wasn't thinking about winning. She was thinking about her mom, about home, about all the nights she'd sung to herself in the dark, wishing things could be different, and that wish poured out through her voice, honest, raw, and full of quiet hope. When she finished the last note, there was silence. Not an awkward silence, but a deep, still kind, like the room was holding its breath. Then one of the staff members started clapping. Another joined in. Soon the whole room was applauding. Maya opened her eyes, blinking in the bright light. She gave a small, shy nod and stepped away from the mic. Her legs felt like jelly as she walked off the stage. Back in the waiting area, she sat down hard in the nearest chair, her heart still racing. She hadn't thrown up. She hadn't forgotten the words. She'd done it. A few minutes later, a woman approached her with a clipboard. "Maya, the judges would like to speak with you for a moment." Her stomach dropped. "Now?" "Yes, if you're ready." She stood up, smoothing her dress. She followed the woman through a side door into a small office. Two of the judges were there, one a cheerful woman with curly hair, the other a man in a dark suit who hadn't smiled once during the auditions. The woman beamed. "That was beautiful, Maya. Truly, you've got a gift." "Thank you," Maya said quietly. The man in the suit stood near the window, his hands in his pockets. He hadn't said anything yet. Now he turned to look at her fully. His eyes were sharp but not unkind. There was something in them, curiosity, maybe even sadness. "You wrote that arrangement yourself?" he asked, his voice low and calm. "No," Maya said. "It's just how I've always sung it." He nodded slowly. "Your voice, it's very pure. No tricks, no showiness, just truth." Maya didn't know what to say to that, so she just looked at her shoes. The woman judge stepped in. "We'll be posting the list of semi-finalists online Monday. If your name is there, you'll perform again in 2 weeks. Same place." "Okay," Maya said. The man finally moved closer. He didn't offer his hand, but he looked at her like he was trying to memorize her face. "You take care of yourself, Maya," he said gently. "And your mom." Maya blinked. "How do you—" "She mentioned her during registration," the woman judge said quickly, though Maya didn't remember writing anything about her mom on the form. The man didn't correct her. He just gave a small nod and stepped back. Maya left the office feeling dazed. Outside, the sun had broken through the clouds. She walked to the bus stop, her mind spinning. She replayed every moment. The song, the silence, the applause, the man's strange look. She didn't know it, but that man had barely slept the night before. His name was Daniel, though no one at the talent show used it. He was known in business circles as a quiet billionaire who built a tech empire from a garage startup 20 years ago. He rarely did public appearances, and he'd only agreed to judge this show because his longtime friend, the community center's director, had begged him. "It'll be good for you," his friend had said. "Get you out of your head for once." Daniel hadn't expected to find a ghost. When Maya stepped onto that stage, he'd frozen. It wasn't just her voice, it was the way she held herself, the slight tilt of her chin, the way she tucked her hair behind her ear mid-song. It was exactly how Isabel used to do it. Isabel. The name still ached in his chest after all these years. They'd been young, wildly in love, full of dreams. But her family had disapproved. They'd pressured her to leave him, to go back home. She'd promised to return, but she never did. He'd searched for her, called every number, driven to her hometown. But she'd vanished. A year later, he heard through a mutual friend that she'd died in a car accident. He'd been shattered. He never married. Never had children. Built his company instead, burying his grief in work, but now, this girl, 12 years old. Isabel would have been about that age when she disappeared. And Maya looked so much like her. Same eyes, same quiet strength. He'd asked his assistant to pull Maya's registration file before she even left the building. The address matched a low-income neighborhood. Mother listed as Elena Rodriguez. No father listed. That night, alone in his penthouse overlooking the city, Daniel sat at his desk with a glass of water, no whiskey, not tonight, and opened a folder on his laptop. He'd already called a discreet investigator he trusted. "Find out everything about Elena Rodriguez and her daughter Maya," he'd said. "Start with hospital records from 12 years ago." Now, as rain began to patter against his windows again, He stared at a scanned photo from the talent show. Maya standing at the mic, eyes closed, lost in song. He zoomed in on her face. Isabel, he whispered. He didn't know it yet, but Elena wasn't Maya's mother by blood. She was her aunt, Isabel's older sister. After Isabel died giving birth, Elena had taken the baby and disappeared, afraid Daniel's powerful family would take the child away, or that Daniel himself wouldn't want the responsibility. She'd raised Maya as her own, shielding her from a past she thought was better left buried. Daniel had no idea any of this. All he knew was that this girl felt like a piece of his heart he'd lost long ago, and he couldn't ignore her. Meanwhile, Maya got home to find her mom waiting by the window, wrapped in a shawl. "Well?" her mom asked, eyes wide. "I did it," Maya said, dropping her backpack. "I sang, and?" "They clapped," Maya said, a small smile breaking through. "And they want to talk to me again if I make it to the next round." Her mom pulled her into a hug, holding her tight. "I knew you could." That night, after her mom fell asleep, Maya lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She replayed the song in her head, the way her voice had filled the room. For the first time in a long time, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she wasn't powerless. She didn't see the black town car that slowed outside their building an hour later. She didn't see the man in the back seat watching their window, his face unreadable in the dark. Daniel didn't knock. He didn't leave a note. He just sat there for a long time watching the single light in the apartment, wondering what he should do. He could walk away, pretend he never saw her, but something in him, something deep and stubborn, refused. This girl was connected to Isabel, and that meant she was connected to him. He didn't know how to be a father. He didn't even know if he had the right to try. But he knew one thing. He couldn't let her slip away without knowing the truth. Not this time. Back in the apartment, Maya turned over in bed, pulling the thin blanket up to her chin. She didn't know someone was watching. She didn't know her life was about to change in ways she couldn't imagine. All she knew was that she'd sung her heart out today. And for the first time in a long time, she let herself hope. Maya didn't hear back about the talent show until Monday afternoon. She'd checked the community center's website every hour since Saturday, her stomach in knots each time the page refreshed with no update. When the list finally appeared, she held her breath and scrolled down with trembling fingers. There it was, her name. Maya Rodriguez, semifinals. She let out a sound halfway between a laugh and a sob and ran to her mom's room. "I made it," she cried, waving her phone. "I'm in the semifinals." Her mom sat up straighter in bed, her face lighting up for the first time in weeks. "Oh, baby." "I knew you would." They hugged, and for a moment the weight on Maya's shoulders felt lighter. But the joy didn't last long. That evening, as Maya heated soup on the stove, her mom doubled over in pain, gasping for air. The cough that followed was deep and wet, and when she pulled her hand away from her mouth, there was a streak of red. Maya's heart stopped. "Mom," she dropped the spoon and rushed over, panic rising in her throat. "It's okay," her mom wheezed, waving her off. "It's just a little blood. Happens sometimes," but Maya knew it wasn't okay. The doctor had warned them. Any sign of blood meant things were getting worse. She helped her mom lie down, covered her with an extra blanket, and called the clinic. The receptionist said the earliest appointment was in 10 days. 10 days. Maya hung up, her hands shaking. She looked at the coffee can on the fridge. There was barely enough for groceries, let alone a doctor's visit. That night she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, her mind racing. The semifinals were in 2 weeks. The prize money was still her best shot. But what if her mom got worse before then? What if she couldn't wait? The next morning, Maya went to school like nothing was wrong, but her thoughts were miles away. At lunch, Lila noticed. "You look like you haven't slept," she said, nudging Maya's tray. "I haven't," Maya admitted quietly. "Mom's not doing good." Lila's smile faded. "Is there anything I can do?" Maya shook her head. "Just keep cheering for me at the show." "I will," Lila said firmly. "You're gonna win this, Maya. I just know it." After school, Maya went straight to Mr. Ruiz's building. He was waiting for her at the front desk, holding an envelope. "Your mom called me," he said gently. Maya's heart leapt into her throat. "Is she okay?" "She's fine, for now," Mr. Ruiz said. "But she told me what's going on. And I talked to the landlord." Maya braced herself for bad news. He's giving you 2 more weeks, Mr. Ruiz said. Said he heard about the talent show. Thinks you've got a shot. Maya blinked. He knows? Word gets around, Mr. Ruiz said with a small shrug. People like rooting for someone who's trying. Tears pricked Maya's eyes. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me, he said. Just keep singing. That small act of kindness carried her through the week. She practiced every night after her shift, standing in the empty office hallway where the acoustics were surprisingly good. She worked on her semi-final song, a new one she'd written called Mama's Hands, and sang it over and over until the words felt like part of her skin. She didn't know that. During that same week, a quiet man in a tailored suit was digging into her past. Daniel hadn't slept much since the audition. The investigator's first report had come in fast. Elena Rodriguez, age 48, former nurse at St. Vincent's Hospital. Left her job after a spinal injury. No criminal record. Lives in a subsidized apartment. Daughter Maya Rodriguez. Born 12 years ago at Mercy General. Mercy General. That was the same hospital where Isabel had been taken after her accident all those years ago. Daniel's hands shook as he read the file. He called the investigator back. Get me the birth records from Mercy General for that year. Look for any connection to Isabel Mendoza. 2 days later, the truth landed on his desk like a stone. Isabel hadn't died in a car crash, she'd died in childbirth, and the baby, Maya, had been listed as stillborn on the official record. But handwritten notes in the margins from a nurse who'd since retired told a different story. Baby girl alive. Given to Aunt Elena Mendoza. Family requested no record. Elena Mendoza, not Rodriguez. She'd changed her last name. Daniel sat back in his chair, stunned. Isabel had been pregnant. She'd carried his child, and she'd died bringing her into the world. He felt like the ground had dropped out from under him. All these years he'd mourned Isabel, built a life of silence and success, never knowing he had a daughter, alive, breathing, singing in a community center just miles from his office. He stared at Maya's photo again, the same one from the audition. Now he saw it, the shape of Isabel's eyes, the curve of her smile. This wasn't just a resemblance. This was his child. The urge to run to her, to scoop her up and tell her everything was almost overwhelming. But he stopped himself. What if she didn't believe him? What if Elena had told her lies about him? What if showing up now after 12 years of silence felt like an intrusion, not a reunion? He couldn't risk pushing her away, so he did the only thing he could think of. He helped from the shadows. He called his accountant. Pay off the overdue rent on this address, he said, sending the apartment number. And cover the next 3 months. Do it anonymously. He contacted a specialist at the best hospital in the city. There's a patient, Elena Rodriguez. She needs an urgent evaluation for spinal complications. Get her in tomorrow. Bill it to my private account. He didn't sign his name. He didn't leave a note. He just made sure help arrived. The next morning, Maya woke to a knock on the door. She opened it to find a man in a uniform holding an envelope. Ms. Rodriguez? He asked. That's my mom, Maya said cautiously. He handed her the envelope. This is for you. From your landlord. Inside was a letter saying their rent had been paid in full through the end of the year, with a note. Consider it an investment in your future. Maya read it 3 times, confused and suspicious. Who paid it? She asked the man. No name given, he said. Just said to tell you. Keep singing. Her eyes filled with tears. She didn't understand, but she wasn't about to question a miracle. Later that day, the clinic called. We've had a cancellation, the nurse said. Can you bring your mom in at 2 o'clock? Dr. Chen will see her. Maya almost dropped the phone. Yes, we'll be there. At the hospital, things moved faster than ever before. A nurse greeted them by name. The doctor spent nearly an hour with them, ordered new scans, and spoke gently but honestly. The infection has spread, Dr. Chen said. She needs surgery soon, within the next few weeks, or the damage could be permanent. How much will it cost? Maya asked, her voice small. The doctor hesitated. It's significant, but don't worry about that right now. We'll get her scheduled. Maya didn't believe him. She'd heard that line before. But when they left, the billing office didn't ask for insurance or payment. They just handed her a surgery date, 2 weeks from now, and said, everything's been arranged. On the bus ride home, Maya held her mom's hand tightly. "Who's doing this?" she whispered. Her mom shook her head, tears in her eyes. "I don't know, baby. But someone's watching over us." Maya wanted to believe that, but part of her was scared. Gifts like this didn't come without strings, and she didn't know what she'd have to give in return. Back at the apartment, she found another surprise. A package sat by the door, no return address. Inside was a brand new pair of performance shoes, soft leather, perfectly sized, and a simple black dress with a note. For the stage. "You deserve to shine." Maya ran her fingers over the fabric. It was beautiful, elegant but not flashy, just like the song she'd written. She didn't know it, but Daniel had spent hours picking it out. He'd gone to 3 different stores asking clerks for something modest but special, something a 12-year-old girl could feel confident in. He'd even tested the shoes himself, pressing the soles to make sure they were soft enough for standing. He watched from across the street as Maya tried on the dress in front of her window that night, twirling once with a small, surprised smile. He stayed until her light went out. The semifinals were coming fast. Maya practiced harder than ever, her voice growing stronger with each rehearsal. She didn't know who was helping them, but she was determined to make it count. What she didn't know was that the man watching her from the shadows was preparing for the hardest conversation of his life. He'd decided, after the semifinals, he would tell her the truth, not as a billionaire, not as a judge, just as a man who'd lost the love of his life and found his daughter too late, but not too late to try. He wrote a letter, then tore it up. He rehearsed what he'd say, then changed his mind. In the end, he knew words wouldn't be enough. He'd have to show her with time, with patience, with love. But first he had to earn her trust. And that started with showing up, not as a savior, but as someone who simply cared. The night before the semifinals, Maya stood in the bathroom mirror one last time wearing the new dress. She practiced her song, her voice steady and clear. "Mama's hands are tired now, but they held me when I cried. They worked until they bled for me, with love they couldn't hide." She thought of all the unknown kindnesses, the paid rent, the hospital appointment, the dress. Whoever was helping them believed in her, and that made her want to believe in herself. She didn't know the truth yet. But soon, very soon, the pieces would start to fit, and the man who'd been watching from the shadows would step into the light, not to fix her life, but to ask if he could be part of it. For now, though, she closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and sang just for her mom, just for hope, just for the chance that tomorrow could be better than today. The night of the semifinals arrived with a crisp autumn chill in the air. Maya stood backstage at the community center, her fingers twisting the hem of her new dress. The fabric was soft, the fit perfect, and for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was pretending. She felt ready. Backstage buzzed with nervous energy, dancers stretching, singers humming scales, a boy tuning a violin with trembling hands. Maya kept to herself, sitting on a folding chair in the corner, eyes closed, going over the lyrics in her head. She'd changed the last verse of her song that morning, added a line about hope, about someone unseen watching over them. She didn't know who that someone was, but she felt it in her bones. Someone had stepped in when they were drowning, and she wanted to thank them even if she never knew their name. Her mom was in the audience, sitting in the 3rd row, wrapped in a thick shawl despite the warm room. She looked pale but determined, her eyes bright with pride. Maya had almost begged her to stay home. She'd just had her pre-op test that morning, but her mom had insisted. "I wouldn't miss this for the world," she'd said, squeezing Maya's hand. Now, as the MC called the next performer, Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. She took a slow breath, remembering what her mom always told her. Sing like no one's listening, even when everyone is. Then her name was called. She walked onto the stage, the lights warm on her skin. The crowd was bigger than the audition, maybe 200 people, all quiet, waiting. She stepped up to the microphone, adjusted it slightly, and looked out, not at the faces, but just past them at the back wall. "I wrote this song for my mom," she said, her voice clear and steady. "It's called Mama's Hands." She began to sing. Her voice filled the room like water filling a dry well, gentle at first, then strong, full of love and sorrow and gratitude. She sang about late-night fevers soothed by cool palms, about calloused fingers that scrubbed floors so she could have new shoes, about the way her mom's hands used to braid her hair every morning before school. They never asked for thanks, never asked for more, just wanted me to dream and walk right through that door. Halfway through, her voice cracked, not from nerves but from feeling. She didn't stop. She let the tear fall, let the ache show, and that raw honesty made the room even quieter, as if everyone was holding their breath with her. When she finished, there was a beat of silence. Then the audience rose to their feet, clapping, some wiping their eyes. Even the stage hands were smiling. Maya stepped back from the mic, her chest heaving, her cheeks wet. She gave a small bow and walked off stage, her legs trembling. Back in the green room, she sank into a chair, her hands shaking. Lila rushed over and hugged her tight. "You are amazing," she whispered. "Like actually amazing." Maya could only nod, still catching her breath. A few minutes later, a staff member approached. "Maya, one of the judges would like to speak with you." Her stomach flipped. "Which one?" "The man in the dark suit." Her heart dropped. She remembered him from the audition, the quiet one who'd looked at her like he knew her. She'd seen him in the audience tonight too, sitting alone in the back row, watching intently. She followed the staff member down a quiet hallway to a small lounge. The door was open. Inside, the man stood by the window, his hands clasped behind his back. He turned when she entered. Up close, he looked older than she remembered, tired around the eyes but kind. He didn't smile, but his expression was soft. "Maya," he said gently, "that was beautiful." "Thank you," she said, keeping her voice polite but distant. She didn't trust easy praise. He stepped closer, but not too close. "Your song, it reminded me of someone I loved very much. A long time ago." Maya frowned slightly. "Who?" He hesitated. "Her name was Isabel. She had your eyes." Maya didn't know what to say to that. It felt too personal, too sudden. "I don't know why I'm telling you this," he continued, his voice low, "but I want you to know, you're not alone. Whatever you're going through, whatever your mom is facing, you don't have to carry it by yourself." Maya's guard went up. "Who are you?" "I'm just someone who's been where you are," he said. "And I know how heavy it feels." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a plain white envelope. "This isn't a handout," he said carefully. "It's help. Your mom needs surgery. I can make sure she gets the best care, no bills, no waiting. All I ask is that you let me help." Maya stared at the envelope like it might burn her. "Why?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why would you do that for us?" He met her eyes, and for the first time she saw something raw in his gaze. Grief, regret, maybe even fear. "Because sometimes," he said slowly, "the universe gives you a second chance, and if you don't take it, you spend the rest of your life wondering what if." Maya didn't understand, but she thought of her mom's pain, the surgery date looming, the fear in her eyes every time she coughed. She thought of the rent being paid, the hospital appointment appearing out of nowhere, the dress that fit like it was made for her. This man was behind it all. She took the envelope. "Thank you," she said, her voice thick. He nodded. "Tell your mom. She's stronger than she knows." Then he turned and walked away, leaving Maya standing in the quiet room, the envelope clutched in her hands. Back at the hospital the next morning, everything moved fast. The envelope contained a letter addressed to the chief of surgery, signed by someone with serious influence. Within hours, her mom was scheduled for the procedure, 2 days from now at the city's top hospital, with the best spinal specialist in the region. The billing office didn't ask for insurance. "It's all been covered," the clerk said kindly. "You just focus on getting better." Her mom cried when Maya told her. "Who is this person, baby?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," Maya admitted, but he knew Aunt Isabel. Her mom went very still. "Isabel?" Maya nodded. "He said she had my eyes." Elena's face went pale. She looked away, her hands gripping the edge of the hospital bed. "Oh, Maya," she whispered. "I should have told you sooner." "Told me what?" Maya asked, her heart pounding, but her mom just shook her head. "Not now. After the surgery. I promise." Maya wanted to press, but she saw the fear in her mom's eyes and something else like guilt. So she let it go. For now. The surgery day came fast. Maya sat in the waiting room for 6 long hours, clutching her notebook like a talisman. She didn't sing. She just sat, prayed, and waited. Finally, the surgeon came out smiling. "It went better than we hoped," he said. The infection was contained. With rehab, she should regain most of her strength. Maya burst into tears. That night, she sat by her mom's bedside in the quiet hospital room. Moonlight streamed through the window. Her mom was groggy but awake, her hand reaching for Maya's. "He's your father," Elena whispered. Maya froze. "What? The man who helped us?" "He's your father." Maya stared at her, stunned. "But you're my mom." "I am," Elena said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "But not by blood. Isabel, my sister, was your mother. She died giving birth to you. I took you in because I couldn't bear to lose you too. And I was afraid. Afraid he'd take you away or that he wouldn't want you. So I changed our name. I disappeared." Maya's mind reeled. All these years she'd thought her dad was gone, maybe dead, maybe just gone. She'd never asked, never pushed because she didn't want to hurt her mom. And now he was real, and he'd been watching her all along. "Does he know?" she asked quietly. Elena nodded. "I think he just figured it out. When he heard you sing, he saw Isabel in you." Maya looked out the window, her thoughts racing. Anger, confusion, hope, all tangled together. The next day the man returned. He didn't come as a judge or a stranger. He came with a single white lily, Isabel's favorite flower, and stood awkwardly in the doorway. "Can I come in?" he asked softly. Maya looked at her mom, who gave a small nod. He stepped inside and placed the flower on the bedside table. Then he turned to Maya. "I didn't know," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "All these years, I thought I'd lost everything. And then I saw you on that stage and it was like the world gave me back a piece of my heart." Maya didn't speak. She just watched him. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," he continued. "I'm not even asking to be called Dad. I want to be in your life. If you'll let me." Maya looked at her mom, then back at him. She saw the truth in his eyes. The same eyes she saw in the mirror every morning. She didn't say yes. She didn't say no, but she didn't shut the door, and for now that was enough. The days after the surgery moved slowly, like honey dripping from a spoon. Maya's mom slept most of the time, waking only to sip water or squeeze Maya's hand. The doctors said it was normal. Her body was healing, and rest was the best medicine. Maya stayed by her side, reading aloud from old library books, playing soft music from her phone, and sometimes just sitting in silence, watching the rise and fall of her mom's chest. The man, her father, came by every other day. He never stayed long. He'd bring fruit or a new book or just sit quietly in the corner chair, watching them with eyes that held too much to say. He didn't push. He didn't try to fill the silence with big promises or grand speeches. He just showed up, and slowly that began to mean something. One afternoon, while her mom napped, he lingered after bringing a thermos of soup. "Can I ask you something?" he said quietly. Maya nodded, folding the blanket at the foot of the bed. "Do you like music?" he asked. She almost laughed. "Yeah, I guess that's kind of obvious." He smiled faintly. "I used to play piano. Not well, but enough to make Isabel smile." Maya looked up. "You played for her?" "Every Sunday morning," he said. "She'd make coffee and I'd play old songs. Gershwin, Cole Porter. She'd hum along while washing dishes." Maya felt a strange ache in her chest. It was the first real story she'd heard about her birth mother. Not just that she died, but that she lived, laughed, hummed while doing chores. "Do you still play?" she asked. He shook his head. "Haven't touched a piano in years." After she was gone. It didn't feel right. Maya thought for a moment. Then she pulled out her notebook and flipped to a page near the back. She tore it out carefully and handed it to him. It was the sheet music for Mama's hands. Simple chords, basic melody written in her careful script. "Maybe you could learn this," she said softly. "For her." He took the paper like it was sacred. His fingers trembled slightly. "Thank you," he whispered. The next time he came, he didn't bring flowers or food. He brought a small digital keyboard, quiet, portable, perfect for a hospital room. He set it on the windowsill and played the first few notes of her song, halting at first, then smoother as he found the rhythm. Maya's mom woke to the sound. She didn't say anything. She just closed her eyes again and smiled. Weeks passed. Her mom grew stronger. She sat up on her own, then walked with a cane, then without. The hospital released her and they moved back into their apartment. Still modest, still small, but now filled with a different kind of quiet. Not the silence of fear, but the calm of healing. The man started coming by the apartment. He'd sit at their kitchen table drinking tea from a chipped mug, listening as Maya told him about school, about Lila, about how she'd decided not to enter the talent show finals. "You don't want to win?" he asked one evening, surprised. Maya shook her head. "I already got what I needed," he understood. The prize money hadn't mattered in the end. What mattered was that she'd been seen, that someone had listened, and that had changed everything. Still, he made sure her mom's rehab was covered, that their bills stayed paid, that groceries appeared when the fridge ran low. But he never threw money around like it was magic. He asked first. He respected their pride. And slowly Maya began to trust him, not because he was rich, but because he was trying. One Saturday, he invited them to his house, not the penthouse downtown, but a quiet home on the edge of the city, surrounded by trees and a garden full of white lilies. "I planted these after she passed," he said, showing them the flower bed. "I didn't think they'd bloom again. But last spring, they came back." Maya's mom touched a petal gently. "She loved these." "I know," he said. Inside, the house was warm, not flashy. Bookshelves lined the walls. A piano sat in the living room, covered in dust. Maya walked over and lifted the cover. "Can I?" He nodded. She sat down and played a simple scale, then a few chords from Over the Rainbow. Her fingers were clumsy on the real keys, but the sound was beautiful. He stood in the doorway, watching, his eyes bright. Later, over dinner, homemade soup and fresh bread, he finally told them everything. About how he and Isabel met in college, how they dreamed of traveling the world, how her family disapproved because he had no money then, how she promised to come back after visiting home but never did, how he searched for months, then years, until he convinced himself she'd chosen to leave. "I didn't know about you," he said, looking at Maya. "If I had, nothing would have stopped me," Maya believed him. Not because he said it with tears in his eyes, but because she saw it in the way he looked at her now, like she was a miracle he never thought he'd get to hold. But trust wasn't built in a day. There were hard moments. Nights when Maya lay awake wondering why he hadn't found them sooner. Days when her mom got quiet, lost in guilt for keeping the secret so long. Times when the man hesitated, unsure if he should hug her, call her sweetheart, or just stay back and let her lead. But they kept showing up for each other. He started coming to her school concerts, even the small ones in the gym. He clapped the loudest always. He helped fix the leaky faucet in their kitchen. He taught Maya how to change a tire just in case. And one rainy afternoon they sat at the piano together, him playing the left hand, her the right, slowly piecing together a duet of her song. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. Months later, on a warm spring evening, the three of them sat on a park bench near the lake. Maya's mom walked without a cane now. The man, Maya had started calling him Dad in her head, though she hadn't said it out loud yet, sat between them, holding a paper bag of pastries from the bakery down the street. Fireflies blinked in the tall grass. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold and pink. No one spoke for a long time. They didn't need to. Maya leaned her head on her mom's shoulder just like she used to when she was little. Her mom kissed the top of her head. The man watched them, his hands resting on his knees. He didn't reach for them. He didn't have to. They were already close. "I'm sorry I missed so much," he said quietly. Maya looked at him. "You're here now," he nodded, his throat working. "I'm not going anywhere." And for the first time she truly believed it. She didn't win the talent show. The grand prize went to a boy who played violin like a storm. But Maya didn't care. She'd already won something bigger, something no trophy could hold. She had her mom, healing and smiling again. She had a father who'd spent years lost in grief but was learning how to love again. And she had herself, not just the girl who sang to survive, but the one who dared to hope. As the last light faded, Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small notebook. She opened it to a fresh page and began to write. "We're not fixed, but we're healing. Not perfect, but we're real. And that's enough." She closed the book and slipped it back into her pocket. Then she took her mom's hand in one hand and, after a small pause, reached for her father's with the other. He laced his fingers gently through hers, careful like she might vanish. But she didn't. She stayed. And in that quiet moment, under a sky full of stars, 3 broken pieces of a family began to fit together. Not because the past was erased, but because they chose to build something new from what remained. Life wasn't a fairy tale. There were still bills, still hard days, still questions without answers. But now they faced them together, and that made all the difference.